to share my screen?
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, let me just see the share the screen. One can share the multiple. Okay. You can share it if you're ready.
Okay.
Should be able to do it. Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay. Get rid of that message.
Okay, yeah, beyond capture.
I got to get rid of that message though, don't I?
No. Okay, so we got the little baby pictures.
Yeah, I'm trying. That's not where it's supposed to be. I'm trying to get rid of that message. Do you see that message in the middle of it says the meeting is being recorded?
No, it's all clear on my end.
I don't
Okay.
see it.
Well,
I saw it, I pressed OK, and it disappeared.
okay, well, I need to get rid of it. Like, there's no okay, there's got it.
We don't see it from our side.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna have to
Click
go-
on got it, click on got it, and it'll go away.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. Laszlo's already introduced me. I can tell you just a little bit more about myself in terms of PSA. I'm one of the board members of PSA. I'm currently the secretary of PSA. So I work a lot with the organization. I also compete in international exhibitions. So Laszlo was saying you wanted some hints on how to get those kinds of images, and I hope I can help you with that. It's been a interesting journey for me, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got from where I started to where I am now. This is my family, circa 1955. I'm pretty sure you can guess which one is me because I have the same hairstyle I had in 1955. So I haven't, in terms of upgrading my appearance, I haven't done much, but I hope I've upgraded my photography skills enough to be an inspiration to all of you. This is my father, is the one with the camera around his neck, and he's there with two of his brothers and two of his brothers-in-law. It's probably also around 1955. And I'm showing you this for a particular reason. That camera was a 35 millimeter film camera, and I coveted that camera, but of course I was never allowed to get my hands on it. However, when I turned 12 years old, I was given that little brownie star flash that you see on the left side of the screen. And I had to pay for my own film and my own developing on my 50 cents a week allowance. Later on, when I was in college, I somehow managed to acquire that Instamatic with the rotating flash cube on the top. And I used that for a long, long time. Had several other sort of point and shoot film cameras in between while my daughter was growing up. But then a revolution happened. In 2004, I was on a trip to Alaska, and I saw my first ever consumer grade DSLR camera, and a light went on in my head, and I acquired that Canon 30D right there, and I literally wore it out, and I'll tell you more about that later. The point I'm trying to make is in PSA, if you meet a lot of photographers through the organization, you'll find a lot of them grew up with fathers or mothers or someone, perhaps a grandfather or someone else in their family who was a well-known photographer, and they literally grew up in dark rooms. That was not me. Everything I know, I have taken some courses along the way here and there, but mostly everything I know I've learned by experience. Top left corner, that's my husband, who is also an avid photographer. He's not looking very happy there because I was shooting a reception and he was my second shooter. He was not at all happy about it, but he is a very good nature photographer. On the bottom is my daughter and her family. It was taken several years ago. Now, those kids are teenagers now, but these are the people who are special in my life. So here are some things that I really care about. Birds and birding. I'm not a good birder, but I'm a very interested birder, and I belong to the Audubon Society. I'm an avid gardener with pollinator gardens. I love reading. I love quilting. I love music. Okay, just some of the things that are important to me. And by now you're probably saying, why is she telling us all this about herself? And there's a good reason, because one of my favorite photographers is, as probably is yours too, said you bring to your photography all of the pictures you've seen, all of the books you've read, all the music you've heard, and all the people you've loved. And that's what has to go into every image that you're going to care about. So I said this presentation is about making winning photographs, and I have a very broad definition of winning photograph. First of all, a winning photograph could be something that's frameable. And around here, we call it a wall hanger. You know, occasionally we'll be out shooting and one of us will get something and get real excited and we'll go, it's a wall hanger. That's something that you care enough about and resonates enough with you that you're going to mat it and frame it and put it on your wall or make it into a large canvas and hang it behind your sofa. That's a winning image, okay? Some of your images will be sellable. And what I mean by that is someone's willing to buy them. Someone's willing to pay you money for them, okay? And some of your images will be awardable. Those are the ones that might win in your local camera club competition, or they might win in a PSA exhibition or some other kind of exhibition. In my opinion, all those are winning images. And if you're very, 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 very lucky, one time in 10,000, you might get an image that falls into that gray area in the center where you want it on your wall, people want to buy it, and you also enter it in competitions and it wins. But that's a very, very rare occurrence, even for the very best photographers. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about choosing your subject, telling your story, and enhancing your image. Is there anybody in the group who has never heard any presenter or any instructor has never heard anybody talk about impact? We hear impact all the time. And I think, especially for beginners, it's really hard to define what impact is. So I want you to take a minute and do a little mind experiment with me. Think of a time when you were in a public place and there was music playing in the background, and suddenly you noticed that there was a melody playing that took you right back to a previous time in your life. And you could remember where you were, who you were with, what you were wearing, maybe what you were eating, and also how you were feeling about that music and about the whole experience of where you were. Can you all think of a time like that? That's what you want to do with your pictures. You want to make a connection that evokes an emotion. And that's what we mean when we talk about impact. So here's an example of a connection. Okay, you take a picture of a beautiful flower. Okay, what's it mean? You might look at it, or someone else might look at it and say, this is a flower my grandmother really loved. She used to grow it in the garden behind her house. Every time I see this picture, it makes me think of my grandmother. Or it might evoke an emotion. And I picked this deliberately because I want to make the point that the emotion doesn't have to be a positive, wonderful, good feeling emotion. It can be something yucky too, like the kestrel with eating the mouse, okay? Some people will find that really revolting, but that's okay because that's an emotion too. So what you just want to get a feeling going between you and the viewer. Or maybe you use your image to illustrate a concept. For example, this one is nurturing, okay? Okay. The point is, once again, it's Ansel Adams, and he said it very well. There are two people in every photograph. There's the photographer and the viewer. Okay, it's a dynamic relationship. And if you are not making a connection to your viewer, then something's missing from your image. So the first thing you should be asking yourself about any picture and I hope you're all doing self-evaluation. It's one of the hardest things to do honestly and with intent, but it's very important if you're going to improve your photographic skills. So the first thing you should be asking yourself is, what is it about this subject that captured my attention? I think when we first start out, we all do what I call spray and pray. I remember getting that 30D camera and going out and just taking picture after picture after picture. And I will tell you, I used that camera until I wore out the dials on it. And in fact, I still have it, but the dials don't work anymore. And I took thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures with it. And I probably only have in my catalog maybe 2 pictures that I shot with that camera, because I was just taking pictures. I wasn't thinking about what it was about the subject, what story I was trying to tell. And to me, they were just pretty pictures. So how can we make it more than just a pretty picture? Okay, Ansel Adams up again. He says there's nothing worse than a sharp image of a fuzzy concept. Okay, here's a good sharp image. I'll tell you, it was in St. Bonaventure Cemetery in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, to me, it's a vacation memory. It's a vacation snapshot to me. It's not illustrating a concept that I can see. It's not particularly evoking an emotion. I don't know what I was thinking when I took that picture. I keep it around because it's a pretty picture, but it's not something that's going to be on my wall. It's not something that anybody's going to buy, and it's definitely not something that's going to win in a typical photo competition, except for photo travel. That might work in photo travel because photo travel relies on realism. But if nobody's making a connection to that picture, then I haven't really communicated anything. This is an opposite example. Here in Arkansas, we're famous for the blues music. This is the birthplace of the blues in the Mississippi Delta, which is Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, where those 3 states come together. This is Miss Annie. I was at the King Biscuits Blues Festival, and I saw Miss Annie selling her pickled peppers and pickled green beans. So I went over and chatted her up, and what immediately I saw was how proud she was of the product that she was selling. And so I call this image product of the Delta, and it must be resonating with some people because it wins an awful lot of awards. Okay. Another thing you can do to communicate with your viewer is to show something familiar in a new way. And this is a picture from Canyonlands in Utah. And if you've ever been there, you know that structure on the farthest one back on the right is called Balanced Rock. And you'll see numerous, it's like an iconic photographic subject. People go there specifically to take, that's one of the pictures they specifically want to take. But almost everybody walks right up to Balanced Rock and makes Balanced Rock the main subject of the image. So when I got there, I decided I wanted to show people something different. So I did the long view and got other structures in it and captured more of the sky. And this is an image that has done very well in competition. But in my opinion, what I'm doing is, everybody knows what that is. It's iconic, but I'm trying to show it in a different context. Another way you can show people something that's a little bit different is to take advantage of all the lenses you have in your kit. This is a stairwell going up into a lighthouse in Michigan, but it was shot with a 15mm fisheye lens, and it distorts the image quite a bit, as you can see, but it gives you that golden spiral that takes the viewer's eye right up the pole and into that spiral. So I'm showing the interior of a lighthouse, which especially you people who live in New England have probably seen lots of interiors of lighthouse, but maybe you have never seen it exactly this way. This is something that is all over Arkansas, where if you are a rice eater, but probably 50% of the rice in your supermarket was grown in Arkansas. And these are the grain mills where the rice is stored. So these are all over the place. I wanted to show it in a new way. So what I did with this image was I used a camera that was converted for infrared. It was 830 nanometers, and converted it into a deep black and white and added a little glow to it. So I'm showing the grain bins in a new and different way. So as you're choosing your subjects and thinking about why that subject means something to you, also be thinking about how you can show it to your viewer in a way they've probably never looked at it before. This is the dome of the courthouse in Little Rock, Arkansas. So another way you can show people something different is to do it from a different perspective. Here I was lying on the floor on my back, shooting straight up into the rotunda. So most people, glance up, but they don't necessarily see that beautiful symmetrical image that's at the top. You can show the viewers something out of the ordinary if you can find it. Now, this isn't going to happen to you every day, so this involves a little bit of luck. Okay. I was traveling in Wyoming and on a back road, and there were some Mustang horses there. Mostly they were just had their heads down grazing, but I got lucky, and these two stallions started to do a little probably play fighting, but it's something different. It's something other than the horses just standing there with their heads down grazing or looking at you over a fence. This is my nod to Vincent van Gogh. It's a field of sunflowers in canvas. Now here's how I showed something different here. That moon was actually shot in Yellowstone National Park, the moon in the sky, but I was able to blend the two images together and show something different and evoke a feeling of a famous painter. But remember, it's all about the light. All photography originates with a light capture. And in the right light, at the right time, absolutely everything in the world is extraordinary. Motorcycles. Hot Springs, Arkansas is known for being a mecca for bikers. And these motorcycles you frequently see them parked on the main street in Hot Springs. But this particular time, it was night and they were under a street light. I guarantee you in the broad light of day, they wouldn't look that interesting. So the right light, okay, and the right setup, and we get something that's a little bit extraordinary. I love this picture because it's also on the main street. We call it Central Avenue, going through Hot Springs. Hot Springs is a very funky place. You can find all kinds of unusual stores and businesses there. But this is a tattoo parlor, one of many in town. And in the light of day, it's just a rundown, ugly building. But I was leaving on a trip and I had to leave before dawn, and I had to drive down Central Avenue. And when I got in front of Redbeard's tattoo parlor, I saw that in the night, in the dark of night, it has a completely different look. So another example of in the right light, this building can be extraordinary, where it's just an ugly rundown building during the day. Another thing you can do is look for drama. Okay. This is in Idaho. Another example of needing a little bit of luck. My husband and I were driving dirt roads in Idaho looking for abandoned buildings. That's what we had in mind as a subject, an abandoned building. And we saw this abandoned schoolhouse. So we parked and got out and started to set up our cameras. And in no time at all, this storm blew up and came racing toward us. So I was able to get those dramatic clouds along with the schoolhouse. And by itself, the schoolhouse would be sort of interesting, but in that light, with that drama, it makes it extraordinary. This is the bridge. This bridge is in Charleston, South Carolina. It goes from Charleston to Sullivan's Island. I was out there with a bunch of photographers and we were shooting the bridge at sunset, and I got some nice pictures of it earlier when the sun was going down. The mosquitoes were biting the heck out of us. It was hard to stay there, but everybody decided the sunset was over and left and went back to the cars. And I stayed a little bit longer just to see what it would look like after dark. And while I was there, those clouds that you see around the top of the bridge, it was fog, and those clouds of fog just came down and settled on those bridge towers, and they were only there for a few minutes, and then they dissipated. But it's something that made this image different from all the other images of this bridge that you'll see online or in galleries. Another thing you can do is try to include an interesting or unanticipated element. We are lucky enough in Arkansas to have a flock of trumpeter swans that spends the winter here. They're not supposed to be here, but For some reason, they seem to like it here. All the photographers in Arkansas have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures of swans. You see them everywhere. But on this particular day, this swan was sort of nestling down and getting ready to go to sleep, but that feather was stuck to its bill. And I thought that was a unique and interesting element. Full disclosure, the background is water, but I did apply a texture to it, so it makes the image also a little bit different. But the interesting, unexpected element is the flower stuck to the bird's bill. Here we are in South Dakota. I went there to shoot this truck at sunset. It's in a kind of a ghost town, but the full moon just made a much better picture than the sunset picture did. So if you can capture something like that, that makes the picture unique. This is Chicago. And what I think is unique about this image is it has not one, but two reflections. That's called cloud, that sculpture is called Cloud Gate. Everybody calls it the bean. But you can see the cityscape is reflected both in the bean and in I got there right early in the morning, right after a rain. And so that puddle of water also reflected both the bean and the skylight. Now this, I can't emphasize this enough. You probably can hear in my speech that I talk pretty fast. I grew up in the East, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Eastern, compared to over here in the Midwest, Easterners talk really fast. But that's just an example of what I do fast. It seems like I do everything fast. And the hardest thing for me to learn when I was beginning in photography was to take my time. You want to hop out, you see something cool, you want to hop out of the car and press that shutter button. What I would advise you to do is, and what I try to do now is not, when I first get to a photographic location, I don't even get my camera out of the bag right away. I take my time, I study the scene, I sort of work the scene and look at it from a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different angles before I decide how it is. I know what's attracted me to that place, but I want to say how it is I'm going to show my viewer what it is about that place that piques my curiosity, my interest, and makes me want to capture it. Here's an example. This is back in Arkansas at our state capitol. The picture on the left, I went into the state capitol building and I saw that. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. So I took that picture and then I wandered around. And as I wandered around to other parts of the building, I found the image that's on the right. Now, I don't know what you think, but I think the image on the right is much, much stronger because of the leading lines. All of those lines are bringing your eye right into the center of the image. It's symmetrical, but the leading lines lead your eye right to where you want them to go. Whereas the one on the left, it has some leading lines, but they're not as strong as the one on the right. And if I hadn't taken my time, if I would have just taken that first shot and said, got the shot and gone back to my car or gone somewhere else in the Capitol complex, I wouldn't have had the image on the right. And the image on the right is the one that has been a winner for me in many, many, many competitions. And this is another thing that I've got to emphasize. If you're a nature photographer, wait for the decisive moment. You see wildlife, or you see something going on in the natural environment, and you want to hurry up and press that shutter button because it might go away. But if you wait, you might get something even more interesting. In the image on the left, the fledglings and the adult egret are not engaged at all. This was taken just within a few minutes, probably a few seconds of each other, these two images. But on the right, all of the fledglings are looking at the mom. So you have more of a nature story. And one of the reasons I want to emphasize this is I belong to several camera clubs, but in one of my camera clubs, what we do after a competition is we go over all the judges, we go over every image, and we share all the judges' comments on every image. And frequently I'll hear, particularly from the beginners, saying, the judge will say something like, well, that duck was looking away from the camera. And the photographer will say, well, what did the judge think I could do? I couldn't tell that duck to turn around and look at me. No, you can't. But if you wait, okay, the duck might turn around and look at you. So wait for that decisive moment. Okay, now I want to talk about what happens after you've captured your image. Okay. First of all, I think what you need to do when you download your pictures is take a really hard look at your images. Does your image reflect your vision? Okay. Or is it just a random capture? This is something I learned the hard way. Okay. There is no amount of post-processing that will make a poorly captured image become a winning image. Okay, to be more blunt about it, they say you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So you need, if you have images that, don't keep images that you think, well, I'll keep working on this until I get a winning image. It probably won't work. And a famous photographer, Galen Rowe, said, words of wisdom, sometimes you just have to murder your darlings. Okay, and it hurts. Okay, but take a good hard look and be honest with yourself. And if it's not a quality image, don't keep it. All it's doing is slowing down your computer. I want to take a minute to talk about ethical photography, because this is becoming more and more of an issue. And particularly PSA is trying very hard to deal with this. What we want to do as photographers, we want to be honest, okay? And I just told you in one of my images, I said, full disclosure, I put a texture on that background. So we want to be honest about what we're doing with our image, okay? And we want to be honest. We want to present the world the way we see it, but we don't want to do it in a dishonest manner. And we want to respect our subjects. That goes for human beings and animals and plants, everything in the environment, okay? Think about that, whether you're doing street photography or nature photography, you should not be doing things that make your subject uncomfortable or harm it in any way. And finally, the respect for the environment. If you're a wildflower photographer, don't pick the wildflowers and take them home and photograph them in your studio. Okay, that is not respecting the environment. Don't destroy anything in the environment so it can make a better picture. And this is really important stuff. I think if we're going to uphold the highest standards of photography, we have to keep these things in mind always. And last, transparency. Be sure you're very clear with your viewer about what it is you're doing, particularly if you're selling your images. Okay, now here's my typical workflow. Okay, first thing I do when I download an image is I set the black and white points. I got to get rid of this. Do you know how I get rid of the gallery on the side? Because you can't see. Can you see my my right-hand panel, Lightroom panel? Or are you seeing the gallery?
I'm seeing both.
Can you see the panel, the develop panel? Where the arrow's pointing, can you see what it's pointing to?
The
Yes,
histogram.
we can see it.
Okay, good. All right, I can't, for some reason, I can't see that. But I know what's there. Okay, first thing I do is set my white and black points, okay? Your histogram, it doesn't have to be a bell curve, okay, because that histogram is telling you where the data is in your image. So you might have more pixels on the left or more pixels on the right than you do in the middle, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be a bell curve. But what you don't want is you don't want that histogram slammed up against the left or right side, because if it's slammed up against the left or right side, then you're losing data. On the left, you're losing it in the shadows, and on the right, you're losing it in the highlights. Now, if you happen to be, well, I won't go there just yet. I'll hang on to that thought. Okay. So set your white and black points to start with. The next thing I do is I adjust my white balance. Now, this is an image that I shot in the early morning, and to me, it looked a little too blue. It looked bluer than I thought that scene looked. So I used my slider in Lightroom and moved it to the right and just warmed this image up a little bit. And this is what, to my eye, what the scene actually looked like. So you want to check your white balance and make sure, I tell you an interesting story. Remember, I told you I saw that DSLR camera, on a trip to Alaska, and I was on a cruise out to Glacier Bay, and I think I had a Nikon Coolpix, and I knew nothing at that time. I mean, I knew less than nothing. And I came back and all my pictures were really, really blue, and I didn't know why. I didn't know about white balance. And I didn't know that you could adjust that. But this is a good example, whether you have a DSLR or a point and shoot, this is a good example of why you should shoot in RAW instead of JPEG, because it gives you more ability to adjust and control that kind of stuff. So if you aren't already shooting in RAW and you want to do, unless you're one of those people that does not want to do any post-processing, I suggest you shoot in RAW. Okay, next thing, and lots of people miss this. Occasionally when I'm judging, I see this, straighten the horizon. Now, this might be really hard for you to see, but in one image, the horizon is slightly tilted down to the right. It's very easy to straighten that out. And I check it religiously, even if it looks straight to me, I check it. You use the, in the crop tool in Lightroom, there's a little angle thing that you click on, and you can draw a straight line across your horizon. And if it's not straight, it'll straighten it right up for you. But I would tell you, a judge will notice that immediately. Remove sensor dust spots. Okay. In PSA, there are different divisions. Some of those divisions are what we call reality divisions, and the other ones are called projected image. And projected image, you're allowed to do most kinds of, almost any kind of editing. You're not allowed to use, for example, if that spaceship, if you pulled it off the internet, you wouldn't be allowed to drop that into your image. It has to be something that originated with a light capture that you made. In the reality divisions, such as nature, photojournalism, and travel, you're very limited on what you can do as far as post-processing, but you can always remove sensor dust spots. And I guarantee you, if you don't, judges will notice them and your images will get marked down for that. So be sure to deal with that. Chromatic aberrations. You can see along the sides of this grain mill, on the left-hand side, you see a magenta colored line that runs vertical and then at an angle down to the bottom of the frame. That's probably a result of the way the light was at that time. And this is an HDR image, which sometimes makes that worse. But in Lightroom, you can correct those chromatic aberrations with sliders. Or if all else fails, you can, in Photoshop, you can pretty much, if you're very careful, you can clone those out, but you need to get rid of those kinds of things. And then there's halos. You see that darkest line of mountains in the background there? And they have that white halo that goes all along it. Okay, that is something that needs to be dealt with. And the way I do that is I use in Photoshop, I use my clone tool on darken, and I get a very soft, small brush, and I just clone along the edge of that until I get rid of that halo. But that's something that has to be dealt with for competition images. And probably if you were going to put it on your wall, you wouldn't want that halo there either. Tone down specular highlights. Everybody loves to shoot birds. When you shoot birds in the middle of the day, like I did with this scissor tail, you're going to get those bright highlights of light reflecting off leaves in the background. They're very distracting. The viewer's eye wants to go to the bright spots in the image. So it's not, your viewer's eye is not going to stay on the bird long. It's going to want to explore those bright spots. So you can tone, a good way to tone those down is with the tone curve. Greens are midtones, so you can adjust it in the midtones, or you can adjust it in the highlights, but you can pull those down. You can't clone them out for a nature image, but you can pretty much make them less obtrusive in your image. And then patrol the borders. You can see where I drew circles around the things on the border. You don't want those sticky uppies in there. They're not connected to anything. So patrol your borders and get rid of those kinds of things. Now, if you're going to enter a nature competition, you can only get rid of those by cropping. So if it's an open competition, you can clone them out. But if this was going to go into a nature competition, I would have to crop that image much closer to the bird to eliminate those sticky uppy things, I call them, on the border. But be sure to get rid of that kind of stuff. It just takes your viewer's eye right out of the picture. And then I mentioned the tone curve. This takes some practice. I found it took me a while to learn how to use this, but if you know what pixels you want to adjust in the middle of the histogram or your midtones, the darks are on the left, your highlights are on the right, so you know what you want to adjust. You can pull that line on that tone curve up and down until you get the kind of tonality you want in your image. Here's what we're up against. Our eye sees everything in 3 dimensions, but our camera can only capture it in 2 dimensions. So if you've been doing some in club competitions or any place where you get the judges' feedback, I'll bet you've heard a judge say, well, that image looks a little flat to me. What does that mean? Well, what it means is that when we look at a scene, we can see depth, but the camera isn't able to capture what our eyes are seeing. So we have to do something to our images to give them that kind of depth. Here's a picture of a waterfall in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Not only is it too dark, but it's a very flat looking image in its raw form like that. I was able to brighten up the image and bring up with using the color mixer. You can bring out the color in the fall trees, and I was even able to get a little blue back in the sky. But that line of trees in the back was still very flat. So here's the final image. And the way I did that was in Photoshop with selective dodge and burn. And so you can see what I did was selectively lighten and darken some of those trees to make some of them, darks will recede and lights will come forward. So I tried to give the image some depth by bringing some of the trees forward and having some of them recede into the background. If you are a Nik DxO user, you can also do this in Vivisa if you're not familiar with the dodge and burn tool in Lightroom. But either way it works. But that's your goal, is to try to get an image that has some depth to it. Okay, I mentioned this already. Outside of the reality divisions in PSA recognized exhibitions, there are no limitations on subject matter. Well, that's not true. I just put a lie up there. You cannot show any example of an animal or a person being injured or stressed, and you cannot show images where live baiting occurred. So you can't, you can't put a mouse on a string and drag it across the field and wait for the hawk to come down and get it. But other than that, there's not a lot of limitation on subject matter or the technique that you use to capture it or post-processing. So in the non-reality divisions, okay, you can be very, very creative. Okay, since we're talking about winning images, let me just say, winning is fun. We all love to win, but no one can win all the time. So if you have an image that, let's say you've done what Galen Roll already said, and you've murdered some of your darlings that aren't going anywhere, but you have an image that you think might be a diamond in the rough, and you put it in a competition and it doesn't do well, go back to your original, and especially if you get judges' comments, go back to your original and see what you can do to improve that image. The image on the left, I was really excited when I took that. That flower is called a Star of Bethlehem. And I thought, the diagonal, I thought the shape of the flower, I thought it was really good. I put it in a competition. And the judge's comment was that it lacked detail. I don't know why I couldn't have seen that. So I went back to the original and worked on it till I brought out the detail. And I think you can see the difference. Look at all the texture and the detail in those flowers, and even in the green cone part of that flower, that was improved. And once I did that image was a medal winner. I could have thrown it away, but that was one. Sometimes you have one that's a diamond in the rough. So the idea is to know the difference between the ones that are never going to go anywhere and the ones that with a little work can be a winning image. Okay, if you're going to get into competition, you're going to get disappointed. Like I said, nobody can win all the time. Okay. I have a story about, and this has happened more than once in Camera Club. We have a print exhibit once a year. And we get a judge to come in, and actually we hang our prints in an exhibit hall, and a judge comes in and rates all of them. And invariably, after the judge rates them all and picks the winners, I will hear a camera club member say, well, I don't agree with that judge, or that judge is wrong about that. It's subjective, guys, okay? It's art appreciation, and it's subjective. An image that doesn't do well with one judge on one day might do better with a different judge on a different day, or maybe it won't. Maybe it will not do well again. But remember this, all failures are lessons. Okay, so what you have to do is, if you're in a competition, you not only have to look at your images, both your winning images, and ask yourself why that judge rated that image highly, or your images that didn't do so well, and say, what was it about this image that kept it from doing well, and what could I change to make it better? But you have to accept that you're going to have failures, and because if you never fail, you're never going to learn anything. Anybody who wins all the time isn't improving much, because they're not learning from the experience. Judges have biases, okay, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. So if you're in a competition and you don't win, what I would suggest you do is you study the images that did win. And if you can get the judges' comments for the winners, study those carefully and look at your own images and try to apply that information to your own images. Remember this, good photographs come from experience, and experience comes from making a lot of bad photographs. I told you about that Canon 30D. I wore it out and I made thousands and thousands of bad photographs, but I learned from almost every single one of them. I would suggest that you find your passion and you shoot with what you love. Okay. I don't love still life setups. In fact, I don't like them at all. Okay. So I don't mess with them. Okay. I also, I'm not really much of a travel photographer. When I'm out, I travel a lot, but when I'm traveling, I'm usually shooting the architecture or the sky or some natural thing in the environment. I almost never have people in my pictures, because it's not what I love. So find your passion and shoot what you love. If you love street photography, work on street photography. If you love flowers, shoot flowers. But if you don't love it, your viewers are not going to love it. Here is an image that this is my first ever winning image, and I entered this in a competition, a PSA competition, just because I wanted to see. I guess I think I remember saying to my husband, I want to see if I can run with the big dogs, see how I would do. I didn't expect to win anything, but this image won a medal its first time out. But the history of this is a lighthouse in Grand Haven, Michigan, on the shore of Lake Michigan. I lived just a few miles from that for 25 years. And I probably, with my point and shoot cameras, probably took hundreds of pictures of it. None of them were any good. But after we moved to Arkansas, I finally knew how to use my camera and knew what made a good image. I had to go back up to Michigan and shoot this image. So keep shooting the same. If you love the subject, I love that subject. If you love the subject, keep shooting it. Shoot it in different light. Shoot it at different times of day. Shoot it at different times of the year. Shoot it with people in the scene, without people in the scene. But work on what you love, and that's a big step toward getting a winning image. You don't need the latest and greatest, most expensive gear. I was in Belize. My husband and I went to Belize with my brother and his wife, and they are not photographers, so we were just goofing around being tourists. And we went out to lunch, and when we came out of the restaurant and walked down the beach, here was this bike up against this Guinness sign in this rundown bar, and all I had with me was a Canon Power Shot, one of those ones that fit in your shirt pocket. So, the best camera is the one you got with you at the time. So I pulled it out and captured this image, and this has been another winning image for me. And I have also been able to sell this image, and it's won and sold in both color and monochrome. So you don't need the greatest and latest gear. Be persistent. This is a location that's about an hour from where I live. It's called Flatside Pinnacle. My husband and I have every summer, we watch the weather forecast, because we want to get the right kind of clouds at Flatside Pinnacle. And so we watch the weather, and if in the afternoon, if we see that the sky's going to look just right, we pop in the car and we run up there. 9 times out of 10, the whole weather and the sky change before we get there, and we don't see what we want. But on this, after many tries, on one occasion we got there at the right time, and we got the clouds we wanted and the light we wanted. But if we hadn't kept going back and going back and going back, I wouldn't have this image. This is up in the Arkansas Ozarks. I have probably driven past this mill pond hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times. And there was only one occasion in all those times when it looked like this. So I got my camera and captured that scene. I've never seen it look like that beautiful again since then, and never had seen it before. But I keep going back to that location because I know that the potential is there, and you just have to be persistent. And remember, you're the artist, okay? The sky on this particular morning, the sky was not what I wanted. I would have wanted clouds in that, a few clouds in that sky to add some interest, but Mother Nature didn't give them to me. So one of the decisions that I made was to, for the most part, leave the sky out of it. And the sky was a lot more flat looking than that. So the other decision that I made was to use a filter. A red gold filter on that image, and in post-processing, and it brought out the color in the sky. So even though I didn't have clouds, at least I have some interest in the sky, and it complements, I think it complements the image. So what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to show people the world as it is. Your job is to show people the world as you want them to see it. And that's how I wanted my viewers to see that image. So it's okay. And, you know, I'm being transparent and honest with you about what I've done to it. So, but that's fine. What do you need to learn or be able to do to take your photography to the next level? And I really highly recommend a regular self-evaluation. It's the best thing you can do to improve your photography. Here's an example of my particular photographic journey. When I had this little point and shoots, okay, I was taking a lot of pictures. Actually, it was before social media, because I had little photo albums, and I'd make 5x7s, put them in the photo album, take them around, show them my friends. My friends would ooh and ah over them, you know. Nowadays, you put them on Facebook or Instagram, and you get likes or whatever people do to acknowledge your. Don't put too much stock in that. People respond to those kinds of images. There are hundreds of thousands of images posted every day, and I think those likes and other responses like that basically don't tell you a lot about your image, but it will encourage you as a beginner. My suggestion is, as soon as you get a camera in your hands, you join a camera club, because then you're going to see other people's work, and you're going to see that there's a lot more you can do with your image. And camera clubs are the best place to learn. As you begin to get control of your camera, you'll become more deliberate about your images. Okay, you'll think before you shoot, and you'll have some idea of what you want your image to look like. It's called pre-visualization. Lots of times when I'm shooting, I'm looking at the scene, and I already know how I want it to look in post-processing, and I have a pretty good idea of how to get there. So that's being deliberate. I can control my camera now. I could probably shoot with my camera without looking at any of the buttons or dials. That's where you want to get, and you want to know what you want that final image to look like. So you're making progress. You're moving up in your journey. And next step is you learn how to incorporate artistic principles into your images. You can pre-visualize, and you're becoming skillful in your post-processing. And then maybe, and if you're lucky, your images are exhibited in galleries, and you're a successful competitor in exhibitions, or maybe somebody will even see one of your images somewhere and offer you real life money for it. So that's what my journey's been like. Yours may be a little bit different, but you have to get very deliberate about what you're doing, and you have to know your camera intimately. If you are not already individual members of PSA, I highly recommend it. PSA is the major thing that made my photography what it is today, and continues to show me how I can improve my photography. I joined PSA in 2013, and the first thing I did when I joined, well, two things I did. And one of the, okay, I joined a study group. Okay, you're all familiar with the study groups? Every division has study groups. The most are in projected image. There are about 100 of them in projected image. And there are whatever your particular thing is, you want to do landscape, there are landscape groups. You want to do nature, there are nature groups. You want to do still life, there's still life groups. And there are even a lot of general groups where you can kind of experiment and do what you want. General images. There are monochrome groups. There are advanced compositing groups. But I joined a study group, and the people in the study group began to give me hints about how to improve my photography. I wouldn't have recognized those halos on those mountains if somebody in study group hadn't pointed that kind of stuff out to me and told me how to correct it. Okay. We also have mentors. I have used a mentor on occasion, but the next thing I did after study group was individualized instruction. There are a lot of classes out there that you can do online. I have done many of them. You sign up for the class and you get a one-on-one instructor. You get an assignment. You do your assignment, you send it in, the instructor critiques your assignment and gives you the next assignment, and you get a certificate at the end of it. And some of those classes I've done more than once. The most important one I would suggest you do is the image analysis class. And there's one called creating, I think there's one called creating competitive images. But go online, go to the PSA website, and there's if you see the tabs at the top, go under education, and you will see what's available. There are webinars available to you, and then there's the PSA journal, which is it's the gemstone of PSA. To be a PSA member, you can be a digital member of PSA for only $45 a year, and you get all this stuff at no additional cost. So to me, it's the biggest bang for your buck in photography, and I will tell you that I give PSA most of the credit for improving my photography to the point that it is now. Okay. By the way, I wasn't in a study group very long before I suggested, there were no nature groups, and I suggested to the study group director that we have a nature group. She said, great, you'll be the administrator. I've been the administrator of that group for 11 years. Those people have been my friends. So everybody's come and gone. I'm the only one that's been in this since the very beginning, but all the people that have gone through there have become my friends. I bet I could call up Carol Shepard, who is now the editor of the PSA Journal. She lives in Bellingham, Washington. And I could call her up and say, she was in my first study group, and I call her up and say, hey, Carol, can I come stay with you for a week? And she'd say, sure. That's why I've been able to actually get together and shoot with most of the people that have been in the group. So I've made good friends and colleagues, and learn from other people. And all this is yours with an individual membership at PSA. Okay, now I'm going to sum it up, my final thought, okay? Remember, we're talking about art. Photography is an art, okay? And art appreciation is subjective. Not everybody's going to like everything you do, but if you're communicating, whether they like it or not, you may be communicating something. And the important thing is you have to like what you do first, or they're not going to like it. Second thing, don't judge yourself by how many competitions you win. The only way you should judge yourself, the only photographer you should compare yourself to is the photographer you used to be. One of the things that I do is every year I pick what I think is my best image of the year, and I put it in a collection in Lightroom. And so from time to time, I'll go back and start at the beginning and say, okay, in 2004, this was my best image. In 2005, this is my best image. And you wouldn't believe how you can see your progress. If you do decide you're going to compete in exhibitions, do it not as if you're competing against all those photographers all over the world. You should only be competing with yourself and saying, okay, well, I was able to get this many images accepted this time, and I got more images accepted the next time, or maybe now, okay, my images aren't just getting accepted, they're getting honorable mentions. So you're only competing with yourself. But above all else, whatever else you do, enjoy your journey. It's been a miracle for me. I love it. I continue to pursue it on a daily basis. And I hope that you find a way to enjoy your photography as much as I do, and that your images, more and more of your images, fit into one of my definitions of an winning image. So that's all, folks. I'd be glad to take questions. I hope I've explained enough about what I do and how I do it. And I hope you're inspired.
Sharon,
Yes, sir.
it's Laszlo. You mentioned that you use Viveza on some of your pictures, and do you use the rest of the Nick?
Yes.
No?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I'm very big on DxO, and I have tried all kinds of other programs, including On One, and I just recently uninstalled On One because I think the Nick DxO program does it all for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sharon, I have a
Which one is your favorite in Nick?
Silver FX.
Okay.
And you know, there's a really good feature in Silver FX. There's a histogram at the top, and it has all the zones, the 10 zones that
Right.
and if you run your cursor, if you get your image up and you run your cursor over those 10 zones, it'll show you which zones you have pixels in. So
Right.
so that's, you know, I never finish a monochrome image without doing that.
Mhm. Okay.
I have a question, Sharon. This is Pamela.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You had that close-up of that, I don't know, it was a piece of a flowering green plant with white little flowers on top, like little stars,
Yeah.
and you said it didn't win at first, and then I worked on it, and then it won.
Yes.
How were you able to bring that out in the way you did after it was that exactly more of a bland, flat photo?
In Nick Color FXO, there's a filter called detail extraction.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and you don't necessarily want to do that all over your whole image. You use, you put it on and then you use your control points to remove it from, like, for example, if you had a background that had any texture, say that flower was probably up against a black velvet background, and that background tends to have some texture. So I wouldn't want the detail extracted on that background. So you can use your control points to take it off the background and just have the detail extraction on the flower.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
I have
guys.
I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
The comment is, this camera club has a wide variety of photographers, some very, very professional and some very, very amateur. And I think what binds us is just enjoying the photographic process.
Yes.
Not necessarily producing the image, the winning image on every shot or every 10th shot, but just enjoying the photographic process. And I hope that spirit continues and that we don't become too competitive in our approach to photography. The second is, given the advancement of technology, how can I, over 80, possibly keep up?
Okay, well, let me start with your first comment. I think what you described is typical of most camera clubs. I'm a big supporter of the notion that you can't belong to too many camera clubs, and I've belonged to as many as 4 or 5 at a time. I think right now I'm in 3. Okay, but what you're describing is what I see, and some people are in the camera club are very competitive, and other people are doing what you said, just enjoying the photographic process. But even for those people who are enjoying the photographic process, I encourage them to try to improve their own skills, because they'll be more satisfied with their images, you know, even if they never enter your camera club competition. But to try to learn more skill, because they'll be happier with what they're producing. I'm not sure, it's not in my nature, but I'm not sure it's very satisfying to just go out and take a bunch of pictures, look at them and go, oh, well, you know, you want to see, you want to see.
I certainly agree.
Okay. So just, I think what you have to do with those people that are not real interested in competing against others is show them how satisfying it can be to compete against themselves. That would be my advice on that. And secondly, you're over 80. I'm not far behind you, believe me. Okay. So my suggestion would be, if you want to continue to improve your skills, is to get in one of those study groups in PSA. Not, like I said, not only are you going to improve your work and learn from other people, and you know, it's interactive. It's a dialogue. You at the beginning of the month, there are 7 people in a group. At the beginning of the month, all 7 people post an image. And then when they're all posted, then each group member goes in and comments on everybody else's image. And then like, let's, for example, I put a picture this month. I put a picture of a sandhill crane in. So people commented on my sandhill crane, and then after they had commented, then I can go back in and reply to them. You know, sometimes they'll ask a question like, say, you know, how did you do this, or how did you do that? Or sometimes they'll say, I think it would be better if you cropped it on the right, or increase the contrast or something like that. So I can go back and reply to them. So it's real interactive. Okay. That, I think, from what you're describing, I think that would be the best way to start to keep up with it.
Let me just make a comment. You know, I accept what you say, but having spent many years of my life grading people.
Oh, you're an ex-teacher too, huh?
Grading people and being graded by other people, and knowing that the process was totally subjective along the way. Maybe not totally, but very subjective along the way. In my mind, I don't want to go down that. I don't really want to go down that road.
But let me stop you there. We aren't grading each other. Okay. For example, somebody posts a picture of a wildflower. Okay. When I reply to that, one of the things we learn is to use very personal language. So I might start saying, in my opinion, you did a good job framing this flower up. It, you know, it fills the frame, and it has enough space around it. I think that the leaves on the bottom right are a little bit distracting. You might consider eliminating that. To me, the colors are complementary. You see what I'm saying? I'm using, in my opinion, to me, I think, okay? And we all do that. We don't grade. We all do that, okay?
No,
And
I'm not talking about grading in terms of a number or a letter, but even that kind of comment is totally subjective. Or
absolutely. And the second person that comments might say, well, I disagree with Susan. I think you should leave that the way it is. And then the next person might say, I've read what both people said, and to me, okay, okay. Or somebody might say, try it and see what you think. And so you try it. And if you think it's even better than your original, then you post that back on there and say, hey, I followed your suggestion, and this is what it looks like now. So it's not, I hear you. I was a school administrator. I was a teacher, a school administrator, and an adjunct university teacher. So I know what you're talking about. It's not like that. Okay. It's not like.
You had a wonderful word that I wrote down. I think it was artificiation.
Art appreciation?
Well, what I heard was artificiation.
It's art. I think I said art appreciation.
Well, okay, that's fine. Sorry.
Yeah, It's subjective. But what we're a group of friends. What I'm trying to tell you is we're a group of friends helping each other grow. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is PSA planning on dealing with all of this AI and photography?
Oh, if you go to the website and look at the tab at the top that says divisions and scroll down, you'll see we have a statement on artificial intelligence. It is not okay. Photography always begins with a light capture. Artificial intelligence does not begin with a light capture. And we have ethics investigators. If you enter something and we think it looks like it's artificial intelligence, our investigators are going to investigate it. And if that's what you've done, you're going to get penalized.
But how can they tell it's become so good?
Oh, no, no, it's not that good.
It still can be, yeah, still can see.
You can still detect it, yeah.
It's not that good yet.
No. Well, and you know, the fact is maybe we won't catch all of them, but we're gonna catch, you're taking a risk if you do that.
Yeah.
And I encouraged my camera clubs to make the same rule, and they have. You can't even sky replacement, if you know, it can't be artificial intelligence. You can drop in your own sky, but
So no flying saucers.
no flying saucers. No. What, did you pull that? You pulled it. That didn't originate from light capture. You pulled that off the internet, right?
No, that's AI generated.
Oh, AI generated. Oh my. Well, I did a good job on yours. I had an image and I wanted to put snow in it. I thought, I wonder if AI can do this. So I tried to get it to generate that, and it showed me a picture of a charging bull, and the bull was all red. That's how good it is.
Well, this picture was just a little joke between Laszlo and myself.
Sure.
And Laszlo actually took this photo, and then I copied it and put the spaceship in it.
And the title is Close Encounters.
It was just a fun thing, you know.
And the title is Close Encounters, right? Anything else? Oh, you're so quiet. Okay, well.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon, you know, for the presentation. That was really, really very useful for us. And I hope that one day we can make pictures like yours.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm sure you can. Okay.
And
you very much.
you got 15 people, believe it or not, which
Okay.
is amazing, you know, so.
That's good. It was nice meeting all of you, and maybe I'll run into you sometime at a PSA photo festival or something. And if you do, be sure to identify yourself. I'd love to get to know you in person.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Sharon.
Okay, Dan, it's all yours.
Can you guys hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you, we
Yes.
can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, it's taken me the entire meeting to get my Zoom working and my audio working. I had to leave the meeting 3 or 4 times. I finally got it working. I had to join through the browser instead of the Zoom app, even after doing an update. So anyway, I didn't really have time to do the agenda. I just wanted to remind people, if you didn't pick your pictures up at Noble, we had until yesterday to pick them up. So if you weren't able to do so, then try to make arrangements with them at the front desk to pick them up. And I think we only had one sale at the show. Megan sold one the night of the opening, and that was it. And we don't have any shows currently lined up for the near future. So I'm going to be reaching out to the salon committee and seeing if we can think of some other venues that we can show photos at.
I have an idea of that. Can I?
Yes.
Oh,
Hi, Pam.
right. The walls of the town hall of Sharon are empty since months. And I already had 2 solo art shows there. So
Okay.
I think it's just a friendly
Great.
phone call that can really turn into an exhibit space for us.
I don't
Somebody
remember if we've shown there before. Do we know if we've?
We did. We
did?
I
We
mean,
have
it's
shown
not,
there
it's
before?
not a gallery, but still people are coming by every day. Just to
Right.
throw it out, just to throw it out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Thank you very much for that suggestion. So,
Somebody
Bye-bye.
used to be in charge, but I don't know who that is now.
Yeah, I do know who that is. It's Zelina Blagden. It's Alan Blagden's daughter.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, but it's kind of on mute, but we can call directly.
You wanna
Do you have a
talk?
number? Do you have a number that we could call since you've done a couple shows there, or would you be able to send
Well,
that
I
to me?
mean,
Pamela?
it's just a general number. They're not
It
a
is. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
just saying. I'll think of the name of the person. There's only 2 people picking up, so you can't really run wild there.
Okay. All right. We will follow up on that then. Thank you. If anybody else has any other suggestions, then let us know and we'll work on that. What else we got? The scholarship, I need to get together with the committee to figure out how we're going to conduct the scholarship this year. I was going to schedule a committee meeting, and then we got all this snow in the last several weeks, so I haven't been able to do that. So hopefully I'm going to send an email out after this meeting, and hopefully we can get something scheduled in the next week or 2 so that we can follow up on that. And we also have a meeting, I think it's in April, where we wanted to do kind of a hands-on meeting for still life photography, but we don't really have a formal program. So I'm going to reach out to some members in the club and see if between a couple of people we can actually put a program together to help us do those setups and help explain like the lighting and some of the best ways or the ways to get the best image. So we have to start working on that soon though, because it's going to take some time if we want to do it hands-on. The thought was to have maybe 4 or 5, I don't know what you want to call them, stations or setups, and we could all bring our cameras to the meeting and have someone help guide us and kind of the best way to get the lighting and the best way to shoot it, and then have us do that and then send our pictures in to kind of see the different perspectives that we got from people. And I know I don't know a lot about still life photography, so I was hoping to learn from that. So I need to work with the other club members to get that together, so we have to start working on that. All right, I think our next meeting is a Zoom meeting as well. Is that correct, Laszlo? Do you know? I don't have
Not
our
on top of my
website
head,
up.
I can check, but let me just see. Next meeting, March. Yeah, it's How to Make a Photo Book by Matt Cohen.
Okay. And then I think then we go back to having in-person meetings, which will be good. And
Right.
Tom Blagden reached out to me and said he was available to do a presentation. So I think we're going to schedule him for May. So I'm not sure what was on the schedule for May, but we'll probably swap things around so that he can give us that presentation. That was nice of him to reach out to us on that. So
I can write just the main number in the text if you want to in the chat.
oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Chat. I don't know where the chat share screen. Can
There's
I
a little, yeah, you can do it. You can put it in the chat. There's a little, I gotta find it. I lost it. Lost the
video
meeting.
screen more?
There's like a little comment symbol at the bottom, and you can click on that, and then you can choose if you want to send it to the. Do you have the icons at the bottom that says participant, share screen, and chat?
Oh, participants. Okay, invite, copy invite link.
Yeah, so there should be an option for chat.
Don't have that. That's very strange. I never had that. More, maybe more.
Yeah, it might be under
I have one
more.
that says leave.
Chat. It's in the
Leave
more.
Leave message.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I joined with my browser, so it might look a little different than yours. But yeah, if you put it in there, I'll jot it down. Thanks so much.
Sure.
All right, and I know that Heidi wanted to do a treasurer's report. Heidi, you want
Yeah,
to give the report? Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
it should only take a minute, so let me just find my spreadsheet here. Okay. So at the last meeting, January 16th, I reported a total cash balance of $2,341.89. Since then, we collected membership dues totaling $140. It sounds like a lot. It was just from 2 people. One person paid for 3 years.
Wow.
And that came to, so then we were up to $2,481.89. 1,000 of that is 2 years worth of scholarship money. So we have to set that aside as restricted. That leaves us with an unrestricted cash balance as of today of $1,481.89. And we have officially 45 members. And that is taking out 4 members that didn't pay and haven't responded to 7 reminders. And adding in 1 student member that Laszlo added recently. So that's 45 official members.
Right.
All
So
right, that's
those
great. I
two
think
new-
that's the most that we've ever
Yeah.
had since I've joined the
Okay,
club in 2012.
those 2 new members from the high school, they are kids, and they are applying for the scholarship as well, so I think that's where they come in from.
Was there 1 or 2 students? There's 2 students?
I
There are
thought there was 1.
Okay.
Is there
So
1 or 2, Laszlo? I only got.
Yeah, I only got 1. I heard about 1.
no, there is another one. Maybe I didn't send it out, so I will send out the email that I got from you.
All right, if you forward me that one,
Okay.
I will add that one to the email list as well and send around an updated email list.
Sure. Okay. And I just want to say a few words about Sharon's presentation, which I think was really excellent. And she's using that Nick plugin for Photoshop, which I highly recommend to everyone. Just the one part of the plugin is worth the money. It's the Viveza or the silver effect or all these things. They are just amazing. It's something that it's really hard to do. Hard to do with Photoshop. And it makes it so easy to do it with silver. With the Nick plugin. So I highly recommend to everyone to get it. If you need more information on that one, I can just send me an email, okay? The other thing is that's regarding the newsletter. The monthly challenge is titled "The Things That Fly." Whatever flies, you send up a balloon or a bird or an airplane or whatever, or you throw up something into the, take a picture of it, so just send me something, okay? So I think that's about it on my side.
All right, thanks, Laszlo. Thanks, Heidi. Does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up?
Yeah, I had a question. Weren't we submitting something for that history? Who submitted pictures of the dance theme for the Sharon Historical Society? Did anybody submit anything? No?
I submitted one.
Okay, cool. What was it? Was it dancing people or was it something else more surreal?
It was a dancing elm tree.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
All right, cool. Maybe dancing trees for another assignment, Laszlo, huh?
Okay. Think about it. Yeah.
All right, anybody else got anything? No, I guess that's it. Thank you, Laszlo, for introducing Sharon and starting everything off since I had trouble connecting. I appreciate that.
Well, it was an
And
extremely short introduction. I was looking for words.
yeah, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. I just could not.
I didn't
It took me
realize that
15
you didn't
minutes to
mind.
get connected. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. All
So
right.
it's been a while, and then when I went to log in, it said I had to update my Zoom, and I didn't realize that there was an option there to join by your browser because I could have bypassed that. Instead, I sat through the update and whatnot, and then my audio didn't work. So, but after logging off and then back on the 3rd time, I think the 4th time I realized that I had that browser option, so that seemed to be the fix. So I need to remember that next time. So. All right. Well, I don't have anything else then, and I appreciate everybody joining.
Okay.
And,
Well, it's
thanks.
so nice to see everyone. Nice to see you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See you all.